Under the same roof, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have come to the time for our weekly legal review with Calvin Johnson. It's so nice to have you here, Calvin.
What's
What
up,
do you
man? How you
think?
doing, Mel?
All
Man, I'm
right.
doing pretty good.
That's good. That's good. What a week, right?
What a week, man. A lot going on in America.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. What was the biggest story this week for you?
Well, first of all, Jasmine Crockett has decided to run for U.S. Senate. So that's going to be extremely interesting. There's going to be two other candidates. That was a big story. And then all this Trump Epstein stuff, man, it's been pretty interesting with some of the rumors that are coming out left or right. And then your boy 50 and Diddy, man, I tell you, I don't like, for whatever everybody says, well, it's true, it's not true. I just don't like seeing brothers go after each other like this, man. But with that being said, I mean, there's a lot of bombshells. And then you got Daz Dillinger and Snoop Dogg going at each other daily. So that's been pretty interesting, man. So there's a lot going on in this country financially with Trump and Epstein and the music industry and Mr. Mangioni. I mean, Luigi, hey, man, there's a lot going on with that this week. I know you were in trial this week with that.
Yeah, every day. And let me tell you, it's freezing cold out there, but I'm enduring it, going to court. You know, I felt bad because when I got to court, I was freezing out there, walking to the courthouse for the hearing. I got out there, man, those young girls had been sleeping out there all night on the street. I said, man, I'm not built for this.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
He
some
has a
of them.
fan club. He has a fan club. It's almost like I don't know if that was Ted Bundy that had the fan club or one of the other guys. One of the serial killers actually had a fan club back in the day, man, where them women loved him, and it was crazy. But it is what it is. I wasn't Jeffrey Dahmer. It was another guy. He looked really, really smooth, but he had a hold on the women. It'll come to my mind later. But some of these cases with some of these guys, man, and them having those fan club of women. I mean, it's I guess it's the American way.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So, what do you think about this week? We'll start off with the whole Epstein situation and Donald Trump. Do you think we're going to really see these files since they have a deadline?
I don't. And I think it's going to be heavily redacted. I don't see that this administration would even allow the full files to be released because it'll probably affect some people that don't want to get affected by it, whether it be Mr. Trump or some other Republicans. I don't trust that it's going to be released. And if it is released, it's going to be heavily redacted. And how much of it can we trust at this point? I mean, it shouldn't be this difficult just to release something, but there's something there. And for whoever's watching the show, you can say it's all Democrats, it's all Republicans. I think it's some of both that's going to be exposed in this because our podcast is a podcast of common sense. It's not that pedophilia has a market hold on Democrats or Republicans. You probably got some of it in both. And to be honest, and just because you're a Democrat doesn't mean you're a pedophile. Just because you're a Republican doesn't mean you're a pedophile, or you like the younger women. As when you look at this Epstein situation, and I think they're releasing these files is going to hurt both sides, Republicans, Democrats, and independents who are not even politically affiliated. So that's going to be a very interesting situation. I just don't think we're going to see the true files be released.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We'd like to ask everyone to hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for the support. And tonight, Bordeaux was the first one to cooperate with the instructions, so she wins the prize. So, Bordeaux, look out for your prize tonight. Calvin, could you take a moment and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yes. This is me. Mine is attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I'm a 24-year, almost 25-year practicing attorney in Dallas, Texas. I can be reached a number of ways by email at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com. Also, I can be reached by cell phone number actually phone number, not cell phone number, phone number 214-565-5600. And I can be reached at the email at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com. Attorney Calvin D. Johnson@gmail.com. Or I can reach to my website, which is theywon'tletmeout.com, which means when they won't let you out, Calvin gets you out of there. So that's the ways that you can get in touch with me. I've been practicing law for almost 25 years. I've done local, state, and federal criminal defense, and I've represented a lot of people in entertainment as well as some education law as well. So I've done a lot in terms of being a lawyer, and I've done a lot in politics. I hold a degree, a bachelor's of science in political science and history from the Howard Payne University down here in Brownwood, Texas. So I have a lot of knowledge about law, politics, and the world.
Yes, indeed. I can vouch for you. We've been doing this for quite some time now. This is amazing, to have a great show, great response. What do you think?
Go ahead and you froze for a second there, my man.
Okay. All right. I said, what do you think? I said, we've been doing this for quite some time now, ever since pretty much the beginning of Sean Diddy Combs' trial.
Yeah, we've been going at it. We've been doing this for a while. We've done some things, done some great work. We've had a lot of great shows, a lot of great predictions, right? So
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
even had somebody come at us. Some people do reaction shows, and one of the people on YouTube decided to do a reaction show trying to cut me and Mel down about my Diddy sentence prediction. And lo and behold, a few months later, Calvin was 1 month off from the sentence that Diddy actually got. I said 51 to 63 months. He got 50 months, which I'm 1 month off. But those people seem to not want to either make contact with us or comment on the fact that we were right. But once again, listen to Watching the World with Mel 777, because he gets legitimate people on here like lawyers who know what they're doing. And when you're watching our channel, we're trying to educate you. We're not just trying to throw a bunch of gossip around. We want to use this time that you're sharing with us to actually educate you.
Absolutely. This week I was heading down. I drove down one day to the city, and on the bypass, I saw people protesting, saying, Hegseth is a war criminal. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've heard a situation in terms of the boats that they're being blown out of the water in South America, where they were trying to catch some of these drug smugglers. I think it was in Venezuela, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And they were blowing people out of the water. But the rules of engagement really say that you can't really do some of those things except for certain situations. And a lot of people think that the Trump administration has went too far in chasing drug traffickers, because when you shoot at those boats, is one thing to hit the boat and then just leave it alone. But what a lot of people are saying is they fired multiple times at this boat. Even after the people wanted to surrender, they still continued to fire. And that's of grave concern, because it's almost like you're being the executioner, judge, and jury all in one. Got to be careful, because when you start to take things in your own hands like this administration is doing, then there are no rules of engagement. And if you're not careful, if you do something illegal, if you do something too barbaric when dealing with people that are smuggling drugs, who's to say that the other countries in the world won't start doing some of the same thing? Who's to say that when they suspect Americans that they won't decide to blow us out of waters too? So we got to be extremely careful about this.
You know, In Colombia, I think it was the president that said that one of the individuals blown to smithereens was actually a 30-year man who was just fishing, and that's all he was doing. What are your thoughts?
Once again, that's why you got to be careful because see, if you don't blow them away, then you can actually ask them. But when you blow them away, we don't have any idea what this guy was doing or what was on the boat, depending on what our government says. And so we got to be extremely careful. Once again, you make yourself judge and jury and executioner, and there are rules legally in international waters when you start doing certain things, man. And I don't know about this. Of course, we want to stop a lot of the drug trafficking that is going on, but I also want to be extremely careful when we start making moves like this. This could be very dangerous.
A lot of the drugs actually come through Mexico. Why do you think Mexico is not receiving bombs?
Because they're so close to us. And I think they're uh, our economy and Mexico's economy are heavily relying on each other. And I think that despite Mr. Trump and some of the things he's done, I think there's a better working relationship with Mexico than Venezuela. And there's also the argument that Trump wants to take the oil out of Venezuela. So that's why he's challenging these folks and blowing folks out of the water and being too harsh. And so we need to be extremely careful about that when it comes to when it comes to certain things. They have been killing us. Hundreds of. I want to go to some of the comments. I shouldn't do this like this, Mel, but I see a comment and it's popped in my eye. They have been killing us hundreds of thousands of our children for years. Let me hear what you got to say about that. Don't do drugs. That's what I got to say about that. We shouldn't be doing drugs. And I'll say this, and I'll say it loudly, and I'll say it directly. I grew up in one of the most drug infested neighborhoods in Dallas. Back in the late 80s and the early 90s, crack cocaine came to my neighborhood in my community. It came through my community first. First crib set in the city was in my neighborhood. I said no to drugs. You just shouldn't do drugs. I know it's hard for me to sit up here and say that for some people, but we shouldn't be doing drugs. America's appetite for drugs are the reason why also why a lot of this stuff exists. We got to start being smarter and just don't do the drugs. Period. That's what I got to say about that. Anyway, man, I'm sorry. I got distracted.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Hey, keep on preaching, brother. What do you think about speaking, since we're speaking about the different countries and so forth? What do you think about the fact that people are, let's say the lady she came in from Haiti, they sent her to Africa. What are your thoughts about that type of program?
So when they're sending them to countries that they're not from, man, that's diabolical to me. And the reason why I say this is because, like, to send somebody to a country that they're not from, I mean, that's almost like a death sentence. Like, if you send me to Cuba or you send me to Zimbabwe, and I've never been to Zimbabwe in my life. Now, let's say I'm Cuban and you send me all the way to Zimbabwe. Man, I have no idea. I don't know anybody there. I mean, they're doing generational deportations where you're going back 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 generations to the motherland. I just am not a fan of that, man. That's a death sentence for somebody. It's one thing to put me out, but to put me out to a place I've never been before, man, that's kind of diabolical of me, man. I wouldn't suggest that on anybody.
Yeah, actually, in the video, when the lady arrived in Africa, it seemed like they were holding her by her limbs and throwing her into a van. Her family has no idea where she's going. Isn't that terrible?
It is terrible, and that's where, I have this conversation. It's one thing to not want people in this country who should not be here. I get that. I get the arguments for that. But when you start pulling people out of this country and place them in places they've never been before, that's inhumane. That means you have no care for people. There's no empathy for people. And I don't think that we should be doing it like that. If you're going to do it, you got to do it a particular way. And I get it. Everybody says, hey, put them out, good riddance, this and that. But I always try to tell people, you know, especially as African Americans, we got to be careful because next thing you know, they'll be coming for us, So we are, when I say coming for us, 6, 7 generations, you're from this country. We're going to put you out of here too. Hey, that's the next step. So we got to be careful when we start letting people do stuff like this. We got to be extremely careful.
Earlier in the week, the Somalis really had everything, had all the news, right? Because Donald Trump is calling them pure D garbage.
You know what? I have some opinions about Somalis in America, and I have nothing but love for my African brothers and sisters. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of videos, there are a lot of instances where they were dissing what we call FBAs, Foundational Black Americans, where they really was saying some crazy stuff about us as people. Now, I'm not going to get into that going back and forth with people with that kind of stuff, but I've heard a lot of Somali preachers and imams and people that are in their community speak negatively about African Americans that are here. And it's very unfortunate because they came over here and they have benefited a lot from the work that we did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s. And that's the thing that we as men, black women, we got to remember that we made a lot of sacrifices to get these rights. And so we can speak about that because there's been blood, sweat, and tears into gaining us those rights. But a lot of Somalis trusted Republicans. There was one individual who told his people to vote for Republicans. He told his folks, hey, you're not like the Black Americans that are here. And so when it comes to Somalis getting pushed out, hey, you got to be careful. We believe me, Black folks understand what can happen when you end up over here and you end up enslaved for some years. The other issue is when we have conversation about Somalis is Ilhan Omar and her conversations that she's had and some of the things that she said about African Americans. I remember there was a time where she called Obama a murderer. And don't get me wrong, the way that she said it with so much confidence. She said it like she was saying it freely. And she's a member of the Democratic Party as well as Mr. Obama is. But I think as an African American man, what I got from that was, and I'm saying that I'm like Obama in any way or any of us always agree with Obama. But if she can't respect a Black man that who became the president of the United States, what Black man would she ever respect, right? And so
Right.
that kind of told me a lot. So people will tell us who they are in these little statements and some of the ways they act. It's very unfortunate because there's some good Somali people in this country that do great things that are not involved in fraud, that just want to raise their families. But let's be honest, they had distanced themselves from us, just like some of our Hispanic brothers and sisters, and all of them are, as they say, FAFO. They're finding out right now.
Yeah, they're finding out in a very big way. I saw those clips of individuals saying, yeah, we voted for Donald Trump because we need a change in America. Who would think that they would end up on the chopping block?
I just think that, and I always tell people, Donald Trump is very persuasive. He talks a good game. I think he's a very smart man. But I think he's extremely calculating. I think he's extremely manipulative at times. And I think that he knows everything that he's doing and he has a certain way to appeal to his base. And I'm going to be honest with you, most of his base don't care for people that are not white. They think that their country is being stolen from them. They think that everybody's being prioritized over them. A lot of the people in MAGA world, that's how they feel. And I think that the Somalis, as well as the Hispanic folks or the people of Latin heritage, they should have saw that, and they did not see that. They wanted to run away from African Americans so bad that they literally ran into the to the man who had the knife. And he's cutting them. I mean, he's putting people out of here. I've heard stories of not just the Somalis, Cuban people in Miami, other groups of people who decided that they were going to vote for him, a lot of the Asian groups. I mean, he is basically telling them, hey, all of y'all need to get up out of here. And a lot of Black folks are saying, we're not coming out there to jump to the defense of everybody now because you guys basically dissed us and you distanced yourself from us. Now you need us. And I'm not saying that I feel like that, but there are a lot of people in the African American community who feel that way.
Okay, and guys, thank you so much for the support. Please hit the like button. We really do appreciate it. John Edwards says, "Why doesn't Trump target the meth lab capital of America in his own state, Citrus County, Florida?"
Well, that's a question, and people always talk about how he discusses African American communities and other immigrant communities are being filled with drugs and this and that. But there are a lot of places in red states like Florida, Mississippi, Alabama that have been taken by meth. And he isn't targeting those places. He's not sending his um, immigration folks to those places. He is targeting cities who did not vote his way. And I think we need to be extremely careful because he seems to target people politically based on how they feel about his party and himself. And that's a very dark turn in America when people start doing that and doing that on a regular basis.
Right. Do you think, let's say, for instance, for the next election, do you think J.D. Vance would do any better?
I don't think he will. Um, I think he has some issues. I think even in MAGA world is because he has an Indian wife, and those people over there, I don't know. I don't think they're going to like that. And I hate to talk about race like that, but that's how they feel over there. A lot of them do, and I think that's what's being said here. And I'm not saying that everybody in MAGA world feels that way when it comes to race, but let's be honest, when there are not black folks in the room and the MAGA folks get together, they say certain things about people that are not white. And we need to quit acting like that doesn't exist. We need to quit acting like that's not happening. We need to quit acting like there's a huge wing of that party that feels that way, that can care less about other cultures, including African American people being involved in the American experience. And we have to just be honest with it. And that's not to say that all people in MAGA world feel like that. That's not to say that all white folks feel like that. But there are groups of folks that feel like that are on that, they're inside of that particular tent.
Candyman said they should have taken that $1,000 and went home.
They should have taken $1,000 and went home. I get it. But like I said before, there's going to be a price for all of this later. And that's what people don't understand. One of the things that I think you got to be careful about, the world also has an opportunity to hit back at America once we start doing certain things. They're not just going to sit there and take it. China's not going to sit there and take it. Canada's not going to sit there and take it. And don't get me wrong, I'm for all of everybody in this country. I'm for all of our elected leaders, but we also have to be smart because there's going to be financial consequences to some of these policies. There's going to be other kind of consequences that are connected to some of the policies that we're acting currently with this president, and you know, you just gotta pay attention. Some people said just stop breaking in the country, right? Hey, yeah, that's true. I mean, you don't come over here when you're not supposed to be here, and we get that. But at the same time, a lot of these companies, a lot of people have become rich off of immigrant labor. Ask a lot of these construction companies. Ask a lot of these farmers right now who can't get anybody to till their crops. I mean, see, y'all forgot those immigrants do a lot of work that nobody else will do and will want to do. And there's going to be a lot of industries that fold because that immigrant work is not there. So if you're ready to deal with the finances of it, then deal with it. And I hate to say this, look at some of the red states right now. They're complaining about prices going up. Well, guess what? You got to pay these workers more. You can't pay them like they're immigrants. Now the food prices are too high. Now inflation is shooting out the roof. And see, that's the thing. That's where everybody has to go. It's that's kind of the attitude that everybody has. But there is a community and there is a economy connected to the immigrants that I think we need to start looking at, and we need to come up with some kind of immigration policy as opposed to kind of what we have now. There has to be a better way to do it that will not hurt us financially, that will not be both so barbaric, and that can actually help our country continue to be profitable.
John Stevenson said they should leave on their own accord.
Hey, I get it. I understand that. Don't have a problem with people who feel that way, as long as you're ready to deal with the consequences. Somebody said, "Come on, man."
Yeah, 49%. Candyman says 49% of the population is inbred.
Hey, man. There's a series called The Soft White Underbelly, And I used to watch a lot of the interviews, and there is this family in the deep woods of Kentucky, and they're highly inbred, and it's truly a sight to see. But that's kind of funny, man. That is funny.
Yeah, definitely is. Let me ask you a question. When it comes to ICE, some of these videos they're dropping literally body slamming women. Any thoughts on that?
I'm really concerned. I saw a video this week where a lady who's an American citizen was approached by ICE, and she's a citizen, and they basically chased her home. And she got in her gate, told her husband. She went in her house, and her husband came out. And he's here legally. He's a citizen, and she's a citizen too as well. But some of that kind of behavior, man, is scary. I mean, these guys are getting out with masks. They're grabbing people, body slamming people. See, I ain't having that. Like, you ain't gonna put your hands on me. If you body slam my wife or snatch my wife up and she's a citizen, you're gonna have a problem. And a lot of Americans feel that way. And I don't think that's a safe thing for ICE to be doing. It's not a humane way of how to treat people. Somebody's gonna really get hurt. I mean, you think about these guys jumping out. They're big, they got these masks. Man, you're not gonna let somebody, your wife's a citizen, these guys go and slam your wife. You're not gonna allow that to happen. That's your duty to stop that. And so you don't want to be putting ICE in that position, and you don't want to be putting other American citizens in that position when it comes to the wife as well as the husband or her family members. You don't want to place them in that position. So there has to be a better way to do this.
What do you say for people who say, well, you're dealing with ICE, but what about the people that come over the border and they violate the women and they're robbing and stealing? What is your thoughts?
Hey, get them out of here. Don't get me wrong, but there has to be a better way to do it. You can't do that and start doing stuff to American citizens, man. That's dangerous. That's really, really, really dangerous. And people got to understand that, like, no, you can't be putting your hands on people. You can't be jumping out on people, especially people that are American citizens, man. That somebody's gonna get hurt real bad one day, man. Somebody's gonna get killed, and we don't need to be doing that.
Okay, Candyman is speaking on the whole Somali situation, how they basically stole $1 billion in taxpayer money.
Hey, if they stole $1 billion and they're not supposed to be here, then they got to go. I mean, and that's the whole thing. What I heard with them is that they were kind of here being on a protected status. They were not citizens. They were allowed to be here on this protected status. And if you're on a protected status and you steal from this country and you steal $1 billion, you become involved in that kind of situation where you're stealing money from this country, you got to get up out of here. I don't feel sorry for you in that situation. Time for you to go. If you're going to come here and steal, you got to go. I'm not like I try to tell people Democrat or Republican, a lot of us feel the same way. You can't come over here and steal our money, steal our hard-earned taxpayer dollars, and then talk lip about us and then expect to stay here. No, you steal, you got to go.
Let me ask you a question. You've been around quite some time, been an attorney for close to 25 years. Have you ever heard a president say that a particular group of people are garbage?
No, but the closest I've seen is when um, Mr. Trump said some bad stuff about the Puerto Ricans some years ago as he was throwing paper towels to them. I haven't heard a president call somebody a group garbage, and not in the last 200 or so years. Um, so that's what I'm concerned about. Calling a whole group of people garbage, and that's something that we should not be doing. And there's a certain way to talk about folks. Maybe you can't group everybody together. I saw somebody said Omar married her brother, and that very well may be true. I'm not a big fan of hers. I'm not a big fan of how she talks about other African Americans that are here. I'm not a big fan of how she boldly talks about other Americans that are here. I'm not a big fan of hers or that. So I will let people know that.
Okay. To add to that, One Love says basically she introduced a bill that allowed $8 billion in theft.
Well, like I told y'all before, FAFO, you introduce a bill. A lot of your people are involved in that. A lot of them are not citizens, and they've been allowed to stay here on protected status. if you still been involved in that and you're still in taxpayer money, you got to go. It's time for you to go.
Okay. John Stevenson is disagreeing with you, said that's not true, Calvin. I'm not sure exactly what his point is, so maybe he can explain.
Yeah, maybe he can explain, but at the end of the day, if you steal from this country and you're not supposed to be here, um, that's what you should be doing. You got to get up out of here. You know,
Okay.
and that's
Uh,
the thing.
Tom
With
says
that,
affirmative action and DEI prioritize the women first.
don't get affirmative action mixed with DEI. Um, that's completely different. Those two things are not the same. DEI is different. It actually prioritizes women, other minority groups, other minorities. Affirmative action was put in place to do some different things to be able to create opportunities and a system for 300 years, 400 years oppressed people. DEI and affirmative action are not the same, and I think we need to keep those things separate. Because when it comes to a black man, I don't really DEI. I don't benefit from that at all. I mean, women and other groups are going to get priority over that than me. By the time it would get to me, I'm standing next to a white man at that point, so it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to DEI, I understand the premise about it, but it's not the same as affirmative action. That's different.
Okay, thank you very much for breaking that down. Did you see the highlights where the Democrats released Epstein's photos this week from the island?
Yeah, man, they got a lot of pictures with him and Mr. Trump, a lot of pictures with him and other folks. I've heard some stuff, and I'm not for sure if this is true, that Steve Bannon was running some kind of interference for Epstein, trying to clean his name up. That he had some private flights set up by Jeffrey Epstein. So I've heard a lot of that. I've seen a lot of photos that were dumped, and then some of the stuff that in these rooms were supposed to be in massage rooms. People have these masks on the walls, and it looks very, very weird, and it's very concerning that even our president and that particular Republican Party did not want these things released, man. Hey, man, it's serious when you are going to, uh, 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 you know, violate, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old girl, and you have a history of doing that. Everybody knows you did it. And as a nation and then as a government, we're not releasing those files from the public so we can actually see what was there. That's not anything to play with, man. It's actually shameful.
Yeah, it looks like in some of the rooms he had masks on the wall with strange faces. One looked like Hitler.
Yeah. And see, that's what I'm saying. It gets really weird. People do stuff like that to hide their faces and so that somebody can't identify them. And that's the big point that I get out of that. That's crazy.
Okay, Cassandra agrees with you. She says you're speaking facts, speaking a lot of
You know what,
facts.
y'all? I'll tell y'all the truth. Man, we had this conversation all the time. Most shows are either far left or far right. And they'll say stuff like woke Democrats, they'll say stuff like MAGA, racist, and all that. We don't really get into that like that, even though there are groups of Democrats that are a particular way or Republicans that are that particular way. We try to stay away from the MAGA fanboys and the people that are just so liberal that they're so far left that they're right, right? So we try not to get into that because we know that there are nuances to what most Americans want. We try to be the voice of common sense on our show, and that's that. I hate to say it, but even as I read this comment, MAGA doesn't like liberal woke BS that Democrats are pushing. Hey, I get your feelings on some of that, but at the same time, we got to start using our common sense. While you may not like that the woke stuff that they're pushing, the Republicans are taking your health insurance away and giving tax cuts to rich people while they're telling you to look at the wokeness that's happening. And so that's why we try to provide balance on our show. We got to start talking about that. They will point to social things to get you on their side, and then they will pickpocket you on the back end. And so that's why me and Mel, we do this show. We talk about both sides, both parties. And when somebody does something bad, we call it all out.
Okay. Candyman is calling you out with this message directly to you if you want to touch on it.
All black folks say a lot of horrible things about white people, and there's no there's no white people in the room. It goes both ways. You're probably right. Once again, I didn't say this that didn't happen. I think both sides do that. I think there's a lot of folks that do that. But at the same time, everybody needs to be aware that it's happening. I'm not saying that that does not happen. I don't have a problem with somebody pointing out that happens. Uh, there are going to be some good black folks and bad black folks. There are going to be some good white folks and some bad white folks. It's same with brown people. But at this, however you want to say it, whether it be Indian folks or Hispanic folks or people from other countries, right? Because I got to be careful in this politically correct world. I don't want to agitate nobody. But with that being said, there is a lot of conversations that are being had when that other person is not in the room. But at the same time, you need to realize that that's happening. I need to realize that that's happening. And more importantly, on a show like this, we're talking about it. We're talking about that black folks and white folks talk bad about each other when the other's not in the room. Sometimes that actually happens. I have a friend of mine, white friend of mine. We actually have this conversation. We talk about it, and that's what this is. This is to do. Why is that happening? Why do we feel that way about each other? Why we feel the need to even do that? We should have that conversation. We should be honest and transparent about it instead of acting like it doesn't happen.
Okay. Guys, take a moment and hit the like button. Tom says, did this exist before or did it happen when the orange person represented these white people?
Well, Mr. Trump is a whole nother monster within itself. And I try to tell people he talks a good game about wanting to put the American citizen first. And there's a lot of people in America that feel like that they have been subjected to being second, third, and fourth fiddle. And that's a great message to have. But what I don't like that Mr. Trump does is he'll put that message out there. He'll turn all these groups against each other. And then he'll put legislation up there that gives tax cuts to all his rich friends while making you fight each other. See, I'm no fool, right? While he's getting us to fight each other, he's pickpocketing us along with his buddies, along with his Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos of the world that a lot of their employees get federal government benefits because they don't pay them enough, but they sit around making billions and zillions and trillions of dollars. So that's how woke we are. And people want to say woke. Yeah, we're woke, all right. I'm woke to the fact that I'm not going to get pickpocketed, so I got my hands on my back pocket. So when you start talking about wokeness and you start talking about draining the swamp and all that crap, look at who gets all the benefits. You got people working at Walmart and working at Amazon that not making enough money so much that they have to get federal benefits. Now giving us huge companies tax cuts where they don't have to pay taxes and they don't have to pay their workers enough. So let's talk about that if you want to be honest.
Exactly. Michael says, you've already proved to us that you are a victim of racism. That proves you hate America.
See, that's the problem that we have. We have these people that are on the far right that talk like this. I try to tell people I have my grandfather served in this military. My uncle was a Bronze Star winner. He saved his entire regiment from annihilation, got a Bronze Star. But what happened was it really messed his life up, gave him PTSD. When he got back home, his wife really didn't know who he was anymore. He suffered in silence for the rest of his life. So when I hear people talk about hating America, man, my people have been fighting for this country. My people laid it on the line. My people have saved lives for people that they fought standing next to. So when people start talking crazy like that, I'm not trying to hear all of that. And especially, I'm not trying to hear that from somebody who follows a guy who thinks that people that join the military are suckers. And then that's what this president has said. So when you try to say that I hate America, no, man, my family has given his blood for America, has given his life for America. So to be honest with you, as an African American, for us to still love this country like we do, despite the disrespect that we have received, despite fighting for this country, and despite some of the things that have been done to African Americans. That's true love. You haven't been abused by this country. Your folks didn't fight and lose their marriage and see things that mess the rest of their lives up. So when you start talking to people like that, you need to be careful. And that's what we got to start talking about. Some of these people claim to be so American, but they're not going to lay it on the line. People and their families have not laid it on the line like some of us have. So that's what I say to people who try to make those arguments.
Are you shocked that the pipe bomb guy was actually a Trump supporter?
No, no,
No, no.
because that's a lot of what's happening. People want to go off the rails. They want to do exactly what they do, but when people protest too much, they feel like it's too much. And see, that's the thing. I think when it comes to some of the MAGA folks and even some of the people on the left, like the Antifa folks, uh, it's not right to take stuff too far, man. People get hurt. You can't do that. When you do stuff that causes chaos, you can't do that. And so that's what I have a problem when people start going too far and start doing too much.
Okay, Mark thinks that everybody should come into the country legally. He says if the first thing you do is enter illegally, I have no respect.
I definitely understand that. I have no problem with that. I don't. I have a problem with what we said. I mean, he's telling the truth.
Absolutely. In the case of the pipe bomb guy, do you think he's going to be getting some serious time?
I think he will. I hope so anyway. Doing that kind of stuff, man, you can hurt a lot of people, man. You can't do stuff like that, man. People are losing their lives. Some of these people have done nothing to be in that position. So when you explode a bomb, you hurt people.
Republicans tend to say that the Democrats are very violent people, and then also Democrats are saying the Republicans are violent. Do you think it's just human nature for people to be violent?
I think America's violent. I think people on both sides can be violent. I think some Democrats can be violent. I know the Republicans can be violent. Look at January 6th. Look at some of the stuff that was happening there. Look at what could have happened with January 6th and some of the stuff they did once they got to that Capitol. Man, thank God that wasn't one of my relatives that was serving in Congress and then something happened to them, because I will be making sure that just didn't pay for that. And see, those are the types of things that when you look at both sides, man, both sides can be violent. Look how much of violence we're exposed to in America because of our freedoms. And then we're at a point right now where we're so separated, right? That we don't have shared interests anymore. There was a time where people shared interest when it came to things that are happening in this country and wanting to see each other succeed. I don't think Americans want to see other Americans succeed right now. I think it's us against them right now, and that is going to be the downfall of our country if we don't fix that.
Okay, Mr. How Hot says if they paid properly, Americans would do the job.
And see, that's the thing I'll talk about. When our president is friends with the Bezoses and the Elon Musk and some of these other big corporate companies, and he's giving them tax cuts, he's giving them tax cuts to fight the fact that they won't pay you well. So think about this. He's giving them a tax cut and they're not paying you well, right? So now the government is going to even be more on the hook for you because they make enough money. Inflation is going up. And these tax cuts are the very people who refuse to pay their employees living wages, but they make zillions of dollars.
Okay. You know, recently, about a month ago, everybody was basically talking about mainstream media, in fact, was saying Donald Trump was sick and he keeps falling asleep. He can't even, he used to call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. But now it seems that he's falling asleep everywhere. You think there's any credence to what Matrix is saying about him needing some Alzheimer drugs?
I'll say this: when you're in your 80s and you're having to be president of the United States and you're not sleeping well and you're angry at times and you got a lot of stuff that's going on, hey, man, it's a lot. And I think we can do better than having an 80-something-year-old president that has to stay up day and night while he's trying to figure out what's going on with this country. I don't think that an 80-year-old should be in that position, because that's a lot for an 80-year-old to have to do. Not saying that some 80-year-old people are not sharp, but when you're that much older and your health may be failing you some, and then you're president of the United States with all of these worries on your mind and all these responsibilities, that might not be the best person for the job. We got to get some young leadership in here that's a little bit more hungry, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more energetic, and a lot more sensible. Hopefully, towards the middle.
Okay, AI Smart City says Asian immigrants are up next.
There's been a lot of talk about that. People talk about the Hispanics and some of the other people from the other countries, the African immigrants. But look at the Asian massage parlors. Look at a lot of the Asian restaurants. There's been those places are being targeted. They're being targeted for in nail salons. They're being targeted because a lot of people immigrate and go to those places illegally. They're doing nails or doing other favors and other kind of stuff, and so there's a huge issue with that.
Okay, so I'm okay. You suck says blacks are being fooled by the Democrats again.
And the whites are being fooled by the Republicans. So, and there's a lot of truth in both of that in terms of the Democrats. They got to do a better job of actually delivering to the people, normal people with families. I mean, I get it. You want to advocate for all of these other groups, but they got to get back to advocating for workers, working families, for normal folks, for people that are traditional, that are just trying to make a living. But I think that once again, that kind of statement tells you that a lot of today's politics has been reduced to blacks or Democrats and whites or Republicans, and this, and that. It's kind of separated us to where some folks think that we're actually separated. But to be honest with you, it's really separated by money, not by color. If you think that you think a billionaire with a bunch of billionaire friends is going to advocate for you, then you're foolish. And that's the thing. The billionaire with a bunch of billionaire friends is going to advocate for the billionaires. They're gonna make sure you make a working wage. They're trying to profit off you. And when it comes to African Americans and Democrats, the Democrats have to do more for African Americans. And people will say, well, have they done enough? Well, if you got 92% of your women voting for them and 80% of your men voting for them, they just got to do a lot. That's called politics. When 4 out of 5 voters and nine out of 10 voters are voting your way, you got to provide for that group. That's the American way. That's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Great point. Mark says the Trump administration is the greatest. Prove him wrong.
Well, I have to prove you wrong. People can't afford stuff. People can't afford to live. Health premiums are going to rise. I mean, I went to dang donut shop today and took my daughter and got a couple of donuts and a couple of juices and almost spent $20, which is absolutely ridiculous. So and then healthcare, people can't afford it. People can't afford meals. American farmers are being told that, hey, when Trump is running, we're gonna buy American beef and we're gonna make sure we take care of you guys. But then you go buy $12 billion worth of beef from Argentina. The soybean market in America has been decimated, and it's never going to come back again. So when you start talking about those types of things, of America being great and he's the greatest president ever, start thinking about those things. If you want me to talk about them, I can talk about them. And that's just not to say bad stuff against Trump. The Democrats have their problems too as well. The Democratic Party has not been advocating for the working man, the normal America, the traditional family, and the traditional young small business owner enough. And they're going to pay for that. And I think that that's what's happening. You got both of these parties. One went hard left, one went hard right, and the people in the middle are the ones that are getting screwed.
Okay. Do you think that the president is actually running the country or he's just the face of it?
He's making the decisions that he wants to make. Mr. Trump is a very strong leader. He's going to do whatever he wants to do. He's not going to let people tell him what to do. That's one thing I can say about Mr. Trump. Unless you got something on him, you can't tell him what to do. So he's gonna do what he wants to do.
Okay. Guys, take a moment to hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Brian Cantrell says problems are coming before long. AI is going to bring socialism in 5 to 10 years. There will be 20% of the country having no work, not to scare no one, but it's coming.
I'm concerned. Yeah, there are going to be some concerns about AI, or artificial intelligence, as well as some other things. And things are really, really going to go bad one day. So, you got to start thinking about that. And then when you get all these tax cuts to these companies and you incentivize using AI and not making them responsible for taking care of normal Americans, then we got to start thinking about that as well.
Michael says ICE is not your enemy.
Most of the time, that is true. But when they go start snatching regular citizens up, slamming people, running up on folks in masks, especially when those people are American citizens, you got to be careful. Like I said, I saw a video this week where they literally chased it. They really chased an Hispanic lady home who's an American citizen. That shouldn't be happening.
Okay, John Stevenson says, I have yet to see any immigrant working on a farm, working landscaping companies, yes, but no farm.
I don't know how many farms or where you're at, but go to places like California, some Florida, some Texas. You'll see a lot of immigrants doing a lot of work. There's a lot of migrant work going on. You may not be where you're at, but there's a lot of that goes on.
Yeah. Mr. How Hot says, I'm from here. I don't worry about ICE.
Hey, I get it. You can be from here, but if you got brown skin or other skin and they want to run up on you and decide that they need to know where you're from, it's okay until they run up on you and just try to snatch you up. So, hey, I get it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What do you think about Kamala Harris? Do you think we would have had a better situation now in America if she had become president?
Um, when it comes to the economy and maybe some of the overreaching, um, taking away of people's rights, I think we would have been better there. But economy wise, I just don't know. I don't know if that just give money away left and right was going to be the way for everybody to go. I would have liked to know what more of her ideas and her policies were in terms of what she was going to do with America. And I think a lot of people wanted to hear a little bit more from her. Um, but I can say when it comes to some of this immigration stuff and snatching people up and some of the aggressive taking away our rights and trying to censor people, I don't think that will be happening. But economy wise, I would be concerned. And then trying to figure out what her true policies were going to be. It just seems like when they interviewed her, most questions came back to her mom being a small business owner, and it kind of devolved into that kind of same kind of response. I think that doing those debates and some of these interviews, America wanted to know more about what she was going to do. And then in addition to that, I think a lot of Americans felt like that they were having certain agendas pushed on them. So people like myself that I have a wife and a daughter, and we're just trying to go to regular school with traditional family. A lot of the traditional families had concerns about her being president. But with that being said, some of the stuff that Trump is doing, some of the rights he's taking away, some of the harsh ways that he is actually trying to round people up and get them up out of here. And I know they need to be out of here if they're not citizens, but there's some things that concern me, as well as blowing people out of the water, which could be war crimes. I get concerned about that as well. So, in terms of those things, uh, I don't like. But I was more concerned about Kamala and her economy. I still voted Democrat. I'll tell everybody that. But at the same time, I still wanted to hear more from her and her plans for this country about making sure that everybody has what they need and that we actually start prioritizing America first. I don't think that platform and the message coming out of Kamala Harris's camp pushed a lot of people and inspired a lot of people to vote her way. I think Trump's platform and the way that he was talking really encouraged a lot of people that they were going to take care of working Americans and immigrants that were not causing problems. And I think he sold that to everybody, but that is what it is.
Okay, World Trader says, here's a better way. American people need to come together and stop being divided.
I definitely understand that. That's the concern that I have. There were times in America where tragedy connected us and put us together. Now tragedy actually separates us. And all we do is we drop things on each other and we really, really have this people that I disagree with there are my enemies. They're not my countrymen who I happen to disagree with. And I really wish we would stop doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Could you take a moment and tell everyone who you are and what you do? We have a lot of new people here.
I'm attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I can be reached at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com. I can be reached at the phone number of 214-565-5600. And I can be reached at the website theywon'tletmeout.com. I have been a 25-year practicing attorney here in Dallas, Texas. I have mainly did state, local, and federal criminal defense. I hold a degree from the Great Howard Payne University in Brownwood, Texas. a double major in political science and history. I'm a former political candidate as well. And I hold a law degree, a Juris Doctorate from the Great St. Mary's University School of Law in San Antonio, Texas. So that's who I am. That's what I do. That's how you can get in touch with me.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're down to the last 30 minutes. I'm going to put the link in. So if anyone wants to come up and ask a question, make a comment, feel free to do so. Make sure your camera is on. It's very important, and be very presentable. We want to be YouTube friendly. We appreciate what we have going here. So, Calvin, as you know, I've been at the courthouse all week pertaining to Luigi Mangioni, and I wanted to just lay out a few things and get your legal response.
Yes.
Okay, so they started off, the call came in, you have the video. Everybody's pretty much probably familiar with it. The call came in, the officer, he was being sarcastic because they didn't imagine this would be Luigi or the New York City shooter. When they went into the McDonald's, um, Luigi Mangione is sitting in the corner. The officers stand in front of him. It's two officers, one is training the other. They block him so he can't move. The defense is making a big deal about that because they're saying even though you didn't arrest him, you're still prohibiting him from leaving. Is that a thing?
Yeah, they're going to try to say he was illegally detained, even though they didn't actually say he was detained, but their bodies were placed in a position to make him feel that he was not free to leave. And so they're going to try to challenge the detainment so that everything that they found on him based on him being detained, that they can get that kicked out. So what they're going to try to do is try to say that detainment was illegal. Anything they found on him after that detainment is illegal, so that they would have to use other matters to be able to show that he's guilty of what they are accusing him of. Put it like this: with that detainment, maybe they had 5 or 6 more pieces of evidence, and maybe they have 12 or 15 pieces of evidence. What the defense is trying to do is knock down those 6 out of the 15 so that the case is not that lock, stock, and barrel for him. And that's what attorneys should do.
So Luigi's sitting there. The officer walks up and says, "Remove your mask." He pulls the mask down, and the officer said immediately he went outside. He called his lieutenant, said, "I think 100% this is the guy." So Luigi is wondering like what's happening. The officer says, "We came here because McDonald's. Someone complained that you've been sitting here too long."
Mhm.
That turned out to be a lie. They also told him in the last week they had been called there 6 times for the same loitering in the dining hall. That was a lie. Is this sufficient? Can they lie to, a defendant?
Yeah, they can't lie to a defendant. And that's why I try to tell people not to engage with police officers. They're allowed to lie during interrogation, so that they can actually get evidence and get stories and get information that they need. That's the one difference in around the world. In interrogations in America, officers can actually lie. I always tell people most great interrogations are where a police officer has 90% of the story but needs the other 10%. And he tells you the truth about the 90%, but lies about the 10%, so that you will confess to that 10% that they need to be able to arrest you. And that's kind of how that goes. And that's something that is prevalent in America. So, yes, they can lie to you during interrogations. That's why I tell people do not talk to them. Say the word lawyer. I want an attorney. That's what you should say.
Okay, so let's just say a regular citizen police officer you see on television, this individual is wanted in New York City for shooting. Do the police have rights to arrest him based on the person they think they're identifying?
They can just go and arrest them based on that. But what they can do is ask questions. They can ask for ID in a lot of these states. And then based on their interactions and based on the behavior of that defendant, then maybe they can have probable cause to be able to A, detain that individual, or B, to go deeper and try to uh, see if they can figure out if that individual is involved in something illegal.
Okay, so he presented a fake ID, driver's license. That would is that worthy of him being arrested?
Oh, definitely. You can't present a false identification if they know that that's false and they know those things don't match. That can get you detained and arrested. You can't do that. A lot of these jurisdictions, especially like even here in Texas, where you maybe in the past you didn't have to identify yourself, but now you got to identify yourself. They ask for your ID, you got to identify yourself. That's against the law now. And a lot of these states made it to where you have to identify yourself and law enforcement ask you who you are.
So he gave the fake ID. However, after that, the police officer said, "Listen, we know you lied to us. If you lie to us again or you present us with fake material, we're going to arrest you." He didn't do any of that after that point, but they still charged him with forgery and all these other charges.
They can do that. They can do that because number one, they caught you doing something illegal. They're allowed to lie to you. They can tell you a lot of stuff when you're being interrogated. That's why I try to tell people we used to watch shows like the First 48, and I would be in my bed looking at the First 48, and I'll be hollering at the top of my lungs, "Lawyer, say you want an attorney. Say lawyer. Say the L word." Because if you don't, they can continue to interrogate you. That's why I try to tell people: ask for a lawyer. You have a constitutional right to do that.
There were two officers there. The second one said that basically he had been an officer for 6 months, and he had the first part of the year he was in training in Indiana, and he said
Mhm.
they taught him, they trained him that he could lie to the defendants and also create a ruse to try to get the truth out of them.
Yes, that's what they teach you. They teach you cues. They teach you how to interrogate individuals. They teach you how to do that. Literally, what you try to do when you're interrogating someone is find out as much as possible. You want to tell the person you're interviewing, let's say there are 10 facts to a case. You want to tell them 8 or 9 facts, and you want to be true in those 8 or 9 facts so that the two you lie about, it seems like you know everything because you've already told them 8 out of the 10 things. So they teach you to try to rope people in with the truth, slide a lie in there to get them to either confess or to give them the idea that you know everything, so they might as well tell it on themselves. So that's a tactic that they teach to law enforcement, to people in the FBI, to federal agents. They've been doing that for years.
Okay, in this particular case, Mark Agnifilo, who was also Sean Diddy Combs' attorney, he's also representing Luigi Mangione. I noticed during Sean Diddy Combs' case, he was very apologetic. He seemed flustered, almost like he was acting. But for this case, he's more like a bulldog. Do attorneys tend to switch up with cases?
Yeah, we do. It depends on the audience that you have and what people are charged with. He can be more of a bulldog in the situation. Mangione has quite a fan club because he's a popular figure to some, believe it or not, for the simple fact that he took a CEO out of a health company. And I'm not saying that people should be doing that, but a lot of people don't like CEOs of health companies, insurance companies. And so he might be able to get away with that a little bit more. But when it came to Diddy, we're talking about trafficking women, assaulting women, behaviors involving women and others. You don't want to be a bulldog. In that situation, you want to be extremely apologetic. So good attorneys code switch, definitely.
Yeah. In the case of Diddy, you had the video of him kicking Cassie. We know all about it. In this particular case, you still have a video, but he's actually unaliving the CEO. Do you think that the jury can get past the video?
It's gonna be hard if you got a video of somebody unaliving somebody because somebody lost their life. Um, Ultimately, I think that's going to be the linchpin for him. But once again, as sick as this may sound, some people, because of some of the decisions that these health care providers make in terms of deciding who lives or dies, there are some very sick people in this country who feel like, hey, man, that's just what they get. They killed other people, so they should die. And I'm not saying that I feel like that, but there's some people in this country that feel that way, that bad about insurance companies, and that's a bad deal.
Okay, so let's talk about choosing the jury. In this particular case, how would you go about choosing the individuals?
You want to choose individuals that are going to be sympathetic to your story. If you can find out some of the background that maybe, if and I don't know if you're going to know this, that if they had to use insurance, what kind of attitudes that they have against the insurance companies in the past. You want to get people that are going to be sympathetic, mainly more women. Women typically that have families, that have husbands, that may be suffering from illnesses. If you can figure that out, which is very hard sometimes when picking a jury to get those kind of people on your jury, then that's how you would go about doing that. A lot of people don't understand, picking a jury is everything, but you can't be so obvious that the other sides know that you're picking people based off of that, because they'll use their strikes to get rid of some people. Typically, like in Texas, we get 10 strikes apiece, which means if there's 70 people in the room, each side gets to take 10 away based on how we feel about that particular juror doing voir dire, which is the question and answer session. So you got to be extremely careful doing that process, because you could expose people that may get kicked off by the way they ask your questions. So picking a jury is an art. There's a lot that goes into it. You want certain people on, you want other people off, but you can't be so obvious in doing either.
Okay, so in this particular case, they waited over 20 minutes before they read him his rights. Does that make a difference as far as the acceptance or the suppression of the evidence?
It does. They should probably read those rights earlier, if they're asking them questions about, especially about the crime and about elements of that crime. They should really get those rights read earlier. Now, there's also an exception called excited utterance. So if I run up on somebody and they just start spitting facts out, that stuff can still get in. But to sit there and talk to somebody for 20 minutes, I think you should read them a Miranda rights just in case he says something that can be useful, that you as an officer can be able to go in and take that information and use it. I think that can become a problem. And that's why I think the defense team has taken the approach that they took.
Okay, so in this particular case, Mangione is sitting there. He has a book bag. We later find out the book bag does have a gun and some other items in it, his diary, so forth. They make the argument that they were concerned. They checked his bag without a warrant because they thought it was a bomb in the bag. But the defense did a great job in showing that they didn't show any concern about the bag. In fact, the only reason why they stood in between him and the bag and moved it away is because the lieutenant came and it looked like the police officers were concerned about were they following protocol.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a smart move by the defense team. They want to try to get in there and get that evidence out of there, which means, yes, if there's stuff in the bag, if there's a gun, if there's a mask, if there's other tools of the crime that are in there, you want to, as a defense attorney, try to get that stuff excluded, which means getting excluded gives you a better chance to win. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to get found out guilty because of that, but it also makes your job easier as a defense attorney. It raises reasonable doubt.
Okay, so as far as the whole warrant go, how long does that typically take?
Now they do them e-warrants. Now you can actually sign them on the phone. You can actually call folks up. So getting a warrant now doesn't take long. I know in Texas, they have judges on call. They can do Zoom. They can make you sign that way. Getting a warrant doesn't take that much long anymore. They're starting to use technology to be able to get those warrants faster.
Okay, so in this particular case, there was a female officer that came over to McDonald's. She was talking to him and she saw that the main officer had his body cam on. And so
Mhm.
then she stopped talking and he cut his camera off. The defense says, why are you doing this, cutting off your cam 3 times during this event at least?
Of course, I'm going to argue that information should be excluded. That means the stuff that they found, the conversation they had with him, because typically these officers are not supposed to cut that stuff off when they have that situation. I would definitely try to get those things excluded based on the behaviors of the officers and the lack of reading of the Miranda rights, because you're not getting the full gist of a conversation.
So based on what you've seen so far, do you think there's a chance they might suppress the gun and the other items?
There's a chance that they could, depending on how lenient the judge is. But I think the defenses did a good job of trying to get those things suppressed. They brought up several issues with the actual interrogation and the detainment. I think they did a good job. And I think there's a chance that that evidence is thrown out. But based on what has happened, I don't see the judge having gumption enough to do it. But I think the defense has made a great argument, and there's some good lawyering going on to try to get those things excluded. Because sometimes when you have a big name client like this, sometimes you won't do the little thing and dot your I's and cross your T's. And this particular defense team is doing so.
So, being that they won, meaning Mark Agnifilo, his wife is also working on this case, but being that Mark Agnifilo had a pretty much a good win with Diddy, do you think it's risky taking this kind of case and then losing it?
No, I don't think it's risky. I think he can do the best job he can. Sometimes it's not all about winning and losing. Sometimes it's about softening, um, softening the landing, right? So that somebody doesn't get done too harshly. I think it's a great look for him. Uh, uh, every attorney doesn't win every case. He just needs to fight hard for him. Like if he's able to get some of this evidence excluded, then they've done a good job.
Okay. So in this particular case, he has a state case in New York, he has a federal, and he has charges in Pennsylvania. So would he have the same attorney, you think, pretty much, or
I
switch it
think you
up is
should get
better?
the same attorney if the attorney is licensed in all states. That way, you got all the information. That way, you got the left hand knowing what the right hand is doing. So I think you should.
Okay. So speaking of Diddy, what are your thoughts in regards to this whole catastrophe with the Netflix?
Man, I told people I don't like when I see men go after each other like this, especially African American men going after each other like this. I don't think it's a good look. But I've been told that the relationship with 50 Cent and Diddy is very toxic. There are talks that he tried to take, it was part of trying to take 50 out. And so when you got situations like that, you got battles that are going to rage for years. But at the same time, I don't like to kick people when they're down. But with that being said, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of this documentary that is really concerning about Mr. Combs. But with that being said, I just don't like men airing each other out like this, especially when somebody's going through something like this. I don't think it's a good look for the culture.
A lot of people are concerned because right off the bat, it reveals confidential material, conversations between him and his counsel.
Yeah, that's something that you got to look at. But remember, and this is the thing that Diddy needs to understand: a lot of this stuff was taped by him, right? And what he needs to understand is when you allow a third party to participate in the conversation that you're having with your attorney, it destroys privilege. So there is no privilege if there's a third person there. So if I'm sitting with my attorney and I got a cameraman, there's no privilege because the privilege is between me and the client, not the me and the cameraman. Diddy should have known better and to tape this kind of stuff and hold on to it. Man, that stuff's dangerous because there's no attorney-client privilege when a third party is present.
Do you think the nature of the conversation with the attorney hurts, the public view of his coverage?
It does because I think Diddy was being held because he beat the government at some of them at these main charges. But I think when they're starting to see some of the stuff in the background, because it starts this documentary starts very early, and I've talked to you about this before. I've known several things that Mr. Combs was allegedly involved in because I followed his rise. I just remember him all the way back to the Heavy D situation in the gym. I was listening to Puffy and Uptown Records when they had Fall DMC, and Fall DMC introduced us to Jodeci and Mary J. Blige, and then just all of those other artists that Puffy brought along. There's a long history of stuff that happened back then, and so that's something that when you look at it, that's something that as a culture, we're looking at, and we're not smiling on some of the things that had happened in the past with Mr. Combs. But I always tell people to get to the top, sometimes you got to be willing to do some dirt, and he's definitely done some to be able to get to the top.
Okay, guys, take a moment to hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. We enjoy having you here every week for our weekly legal review. I waited all week to ask you this question about the documentary. I know you're a man in the music industry as well. You're very familiar with it. What do you think about the fact that they would offer you a deal, give you an advance, and then the rest of the time you're just hobbling around trying to figure out where your money's coming from and how you're going to get it? Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And that's one thing about the music industry that I don't like. They give you, let's say, give you a $200,000 advance, right? And then you got to use some of that as on your recording budget and making your album. So let's say they give you a $200,000 advance and you get to keep $150,000 after you spend to record your album. So so basically what you're doing is you got to pay back that $150,000 because it's recoupable, right? So even though you got that advance, they got to recoup that. After they recoup it, then they take them a big percentage of of your money. So let's say your deal calls for you to get 10% of the profits after they recoup the money. They're taking 90% of your profit and you getting 10%. Not only is that happening, they're doing the accounting. So they're doing the accounting. And so they're the ones with the books. I always tell the story of Chameleonaire. Chameleonaire was a rapper called, I had a song called Riding Dirty. How he got out of his recording contract was genius. He wanted out his recording contract. They told him no. He came back and said, "You don't let me out this contract. I'm going to go sit down with every rapper I know and I'm going to teach them how to do an accounting. And they're going to go over your books with a fine tooth comb. I'm going to teach every rapper I know how to go do an accounting." And after he said that to them, within 24 hours, they were releasing him from his contract. That ought to tell you how devious some of these record companies can be when it comes to royalties and when it comes to the business side of getting paid from your own music.
Well, when it comes to Diddy, do you think that, based on some of the facts or ideas coming from this whole video, whatever, do you think they're going to charge him with something else?
I don't think he's going to get charged with something else. I just think that it's going to continue to put a cloud over him, and I just it's sad because we all have this relationship with Puffy where we were proud that he was doing what he was doing and some of the stuff, but I think see some of the stuff that was happening in the background, and we don't like it. Now, let's be honest. He gave us Father MC, Blige, Faith Evans, Bad Boy Records, part of Uptown Records. He gave us Biggie Smalls. He gave us Junior Mafia to a certain extent. He gave us the Locks. He gave us Loon. He gave us, Mace, Mason Bether. Talk slow, raps fast. But either way, he gave us a soundtrack to life of the 90s and 2000s. And it's very sad to watch him go out like this because he's still, whether you like him or not, he's still part of how our culture is right now. He's a major figure in the culture.
I always wondered before I saw the documentary why a lot more of his artists didn't come to the court case just to sit there, observe. Do you think it's because of his behavior?
I think it is number one. Number two, I think it's the fact that when you look at people like him, and I had this conversation earlier about politicians that don't create leaders. How many people signed with Puffy later on came out and now they're rich? They always seem to have a little bit of money eventually, but they seem to all struggle for later on in life without having any money, or they all seem to somehow go bankrupt or have bad stuff happen to them. And so I think what happens is every artist or every mogul is going to have a tree, but sometimes your tree can look like it's poisonous because a lot of the people that you bring up are not rich or not really doing it and they're having money problems while you at the same time become a billionaire. And not saying that that's a bad thing. That's part of the business. White guys have done it for years. So we shouldn't be mad at Puffy because he's doing it. But when you think an artist is going to come sit next to a guy that they feel like jobbed them out of their money, they're not going to do that.
Absolutely. He did have Kanye West come through And what's weird about it, the day before they were insinuating that perhaps Kanye West was involved in some of the same type of freak off behavior.
Well, that's been the talk of Kanye. I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful talking about Kanye. Full disclosure, I'm actually friends with one of his cousins. Uh, yeah, so I got to be very careful when I talk about. Yeah, I don't want to talk saucy. I don't want my man mad at me for talking about his family. But with that being said, there's been some talk about Kanye doing a lot of things, and so when it comes to him and that kind of stuff, who knows?
Right, right. So what do you think? Do you think there's a way back for Diddy?
I don't. Once that young lady got her head kicked, and once a lot of stuff came out about him, I don't think that there's a way back. But I think there's a way for him to try to protect his assets and still have a very very good life. With that being said, I don't just look at somebody and talk about all the bad stuff. Listen, Puffy gave us a lot, man. I mean, he created 112, brought Biggie to us, brought Faith Evans to us, brought Mary J. Blige to us, produced plenty of hits over the years, was a soundtrack to life. And I thank him for that. Unfortunately, we also have learned that he's been involved in some things that we're not proud of. I think he's not proud of. And I just don't think there's a way back for him. I don't think people are going to work with him anymore. I think that's kind of how they're going to treat him, unfortunately. But some people may say fortunately. But I hate when I see a man that we all looked up to have this kind of fall. Period. It's not something
Ab-
to be happy about.
Absolutely. So we only have about 8 minutes left. I just wanted to go over a few things I'm seeing in the comments. A lot of people feel like Donald Trump was involved with the Epstein files, maybe in a nefarious way.
And see, that's what I'm starting to wonder because remember he was the leader of the Senate that he was trying to get that guy from releasing some of that information. He's trying to get of everybody to vote against the release, and that the person in the Senate is talking. I think Johnson is talking about some of that stuff is going to create additional victims. Now the people that are in those files are going to become victims, and there's just something weird going on with the release of those files, and a lot of people are guessing that Mr. Trump is probably involved in that some kind of way.
Okay. Michael says, oh dear God, this channel is spewing anti-American, I think, rhetoric.
And I think that's where we got to be careful. Being anti-American is not being able to speak freely. America does not decide that you get to talk one way because we like a guy and another way because we don't like a guy, or it gives you the opportunity to talk one way because you like a guy and another way because you don't like a guy. So at the end of the day, there's not a lot of anti-American hate being spewed. It's free speech. It's stuff that my uncle fought and bled for. And then that's the thing, for everybody who thinks that Trump is the greatest president since sliced bread and homogenized milk, hey, you're great. I'm glad you feel that way. A lot of other people don't feel that way. And they're allowed to say it. You can't get mad because they are saying it. Just like when some of you guys did not like Obama or didn't like Biden or didn't like Clinton or Bush, you're able as an American to say something and not be considered an anti-American. Is actually anti-American to actually um, tell people that they can't critique a president, they cannot like a president. That's the anti-American thing.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I just want to mention that Bordeaux was the winner today. She was the first here, first to like, and the first to share, and she's already subscribed. So thank you very much, Bordeaux. Look out for your grand prize. One Love says disagreeing with policy doesn't mean you hate the country.
No, and that's the fact. Just because you disagree with policy does not mean you hate the country. And I always tell people, and I've said it several times, my uncle and grandfather fought for this country, other relatives fought for this country, gave a lot of their lives. And just because I disagree with the way that something's being handled or a policy of a particular president or person in politics or representative that's in politics does not mean I hate this country.
Okay. So just before we end the show, we only have 5 minutes left. I want to ask you a couple questions, legal questions. When it comes to a DWI, DUI, whatever it's called in your state, under what circumstances do people get a ankle monitor?
A lot of the times that are habitual offenders, if they continue to drink, because what you don't want to do is you don't want people to continue to drink and then cause accidents. And so that's the thing. You don't want people who have a DWI to go out and drink again and and cause accidents. People have to understand drinking and driving can take somebody's life away. One of my mentors actually got hit by a drunk driver while he was changing a tire. He ended up in the hospital and eventually dying because of his injuries. I ended up being in a rehab home. And so we got to start thinking about people that do that.
Okay. If a person gets stopped and there's a suspicion of them drinking, do they have to take the breathalyzer?
You don't, but there's going to be a there's going to be a punishment for that. If they smell alcohol in your breath, you don't take the breathalyzer. They can suspend your license. They can cause you to not to be able to drive for a certain period of time. And if they smell alcohol on you or see alcohol present, they can get a blood warrant and take your blood. So you can refuse, but there are going to be consequences to that. And when it comes to a blood warrant based on their reasonable suspicion, they're going to take your blood, and there's not going to be a damn thing you're going to be able to do about it.
Have you ever heard of any situations where a person was able to litigate their case on side the road?
No. That's why I try to tell people, don't talk to them. If you don't have to do those tests, don't do them because they're not going to help you. They're going to try to show that you were intoxicated, and they're going to slant those tests to try to make it look like you were not doing what they were asking you to do. I try to tell people, like in the DWI, most people, when they ask you to do the heel to toe, take 10 steps, turn around and come back, some people are thinking that they're asking you to do about 2 or 3 things. No, really, they're asking you to do about 10 things because they're asking you to step up to the line. They're telling you to wait till I say go. They're letting you demonstrate them, and then if you go down there and you go before they say go, if you turn around and ask them questions, if you don't take the correct amount of steps, then they're going to count all those things against you.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Like in the case of Sean Diddy Combs, for an example, does it matter that you're paying all of these millions of dollars for attorneys? Does that ultimately help change the outcome? Or, if it's just a matter of chance?
No, it does. When you got good representation, they're going to be able to calm the earth to try to get you every defense. You got good attorneys that have been doing it for a while and they got resources. That's good.
Okay. There's rumors that he paid somewhere north of 20 million. Not sure if it's true or not, but that would require
It's
great
worth
work,
it.
right?
It's great work if you ain't going to jail. It's great work. If it keeps you out of jail, it's great work. I see a lot of the
Right.
comments going on. Hey, man, even some of my MAGA people not hating on me. Hey, man, you have a right to be MAGA. I'm not going to be mad at you. I mean, at the end of the day, somebody doesn't like me because of color. That's their prerogative. I don't care. I mean, I still got to live my life. As long as you don't discriminate against me when it comes to what my legal rights are, then I can deal with you. It is what it is. But when it comes to getting a good lawyer to represent you and making sure that that lawyer can spend all the time he can to be able to properly litigate your case, and you're wealthy and you're facing a federal case, and they can keep you from getting a federal felony conviction, and you only have to do a few years as opposed to being locked up for 10 and 20 years. That's money well spent if you got the money. Time is the one thing you can't buy back.
Yeah, as you know, I also covered Donald Trump's case here in New York City as well. Do you think that he'll be stuck with those 34 felonies the rest of his life?
I think he will. I think that the tide is turning on him. I think he's going to have some problems if this economy doesn't improve. I mean, because there's a lot of people in this country hurting with this economy. There's a lot of farmers that are concerned. There's a lot of people in these red states are concerned about money. And I think a lot of how they feel about him is going to turn if he doesn't get this economy turned around. I think those convictions are going to stick.
Yes, but it seems that he has diehard supporters no matter what he does, correct?
He has a certain percentage. You know, his I would say a strong 30% of the Republican Party is going to back him no matter what he does. I mean, and that's just the truth, because they just feel like they'd rather deal with him than deal with some of the people on the other side. And that's what's sad about America. There's certain portions to the left and the right, and they're going to believe their side no matter what no matter what facts you try to bring to them.
Right. I believe no matter what happens in this country, people tend to think that most of these events, the government is behind it. A good example is E. Carey says the pipe bomb guy was a Fed.
Well, that's the thing, is the government behind it? It's a possibility. We've seen in the past where the government was behind things that we thought were completely independent. It wouldn't surprise me. You got one of the most powerful countries in the world, one of the best private investigators, and some of the best private investigators, some of the best FBI, CIA agents in the world, and some of the best surveillance equipment and methods in the entire world. It wouldn't surprise me if some of that stuff came from our government, and that's just being honest and transparent.
Okay. Michael says the pipe bomber was not a Trump supporter. You lie again.
See, there we go. That's the thing. You got some people, no matter what, if it's bad, it's a Democrat. If it's good, it's MAGA, it's Trump, and vice versa. Some people will say if it's Trump, it's bad. If Trump supporter is bad. If it's a Democrat, it's good. You got a lot of that happens, and my argument to those folks are those are not the people that I kind of target, right? When I say target, I'm not really trying to talk to those people. I mean, if they're going to be MAGA sycophants or far left sycophants, it is what it is. I mean, those people are not coming off the ledge. They're going to continue to stay on the ledge. I want to talk to those that are sensible, that are in the middle, that can actually evaluate people not by them being MAGA, but by what the person actually doing what they said they're going to do.
Okay. I think Stuff More says, maybe you've already talked about it, but do you think the pipe bomber could argue that he was already pardoned with the January 6th insurrectionists?
Nah. It would be a new crime, something new. No, I don't think he could claim that.
Okay. Very good. All right. So we've reached our time. Thank you so much, Calvin, for your awesome dialogue here tonight. I really appreciate it. Would you like to close us out?
Yeah, we'd like to close this out. I always try to tell people when it comes to having an open conversation, and we want to be a place on the Weekly Legal Review, and of course with Mel, we want to be a place where we can actually have good conversations about our country. We want to talk about people to the far left, to the far right. We want to talk about people in the middle. I love this country. I love America. I love this country. I have my relatives who have fought for this country. We've suffered in this country a lot as African Americans, but we still show up and show out when they need us. And I want people to understand that just because I disagree with you, I'm not your enemy. And just because I disagree with you does not mean I'm some far left person or some far right person. I'm a person that actually thinks about everything that I'm saying. And I'm also your countryman. So for those that are watching this show, we got to do better in this country. Trump's going to do some bad things. He's going to do some good things. There are going to be some Democrats that do some bad things. They're going to do some good things. But when they do some bad stuff, I'm going to call it out. When they do some good stuff, I'm going to call it out. But right now in this country, I'm just going to be honest with you. There's a lot of people feeling uncomfortable. A lot of Black and brown folks are feeling uncomfortable. Food is too expensive. Inflation is getting out of control. And we need some changes in this country. We need people to deliver and do what they said they were going to do. And that's the truth. On the Weekly Legal Review with Mel and Calvin.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who participated tonight. Have a good
Thanks,
week.
man. We'll be talking, my friend. See you later, buddy.
Okay. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. painting the night. United we